Marinaro, the Sick podcast, and a couple of days ago, the Montreal Canadiens acquired from the Arizona Coyotes center Christian Dvorak. He never had a chance to coach him. He was going to be his coach this year, but let's see how much he can tell us about Christian Dvorak. I'm sure he too did his homework. The coach of the Arizona Coyotes, Andre Tourigny, how are you?
Very good. What about you, Tony?
Very, very good. Thank you for doing this. It's the Sick Podcast. The show's brought to you by Essentia, the world's only natural memory foam mattress. Go to myessentia.com/sickpod and use code SICKPOD for a free pillow with your purchase. Essentia Beyond Organic Sleep. All right. If people were sleeping on Saturday night, they definitely woke up, give or take, at around 6:30 p.m. when the Canadiens announced the acquisition of Christian Dvorak, 25-year-old centerman. Once again, this will be your first year as head coach of the Arizona Coyotes. Your CV, by the way, is absolutely unbelievable. I can't get to it all, but former OHL Coach of the Year, former CHL Coach of the Year, gold medalist at the Olympics, gold medalist at the World Juniors, former assistant coach with the Colorado Avalanche and the Ottawa Senators, and now, of course, the head coach with the Arizona Coyotes. Okay, Christian Dvorak, because he played in Arizona, there's a lot of people here in Montreal that don't know a lot about him. What can you tell us?
Well, Devo is he's a really good two-way player. He's a guy who really good defensively, play against the tough minute, like we call it. He play against the best player, wins face-off, play PK, play power play. He's a really sound player both ways. So he's a really low maintenance player, but he's a player where the coach can trust in key situations.
Now we know Arizona's reality. It's that of a rebuild, getting younger, maybe trying to clear up the cap, trying to stockpile some draft picks, and build towards the future. When you arrived in Arizona, or when you went through the interview process, I'm sure you inquired about the players that you would have at your availability. Were you told that there was a good chance that you would not be able to coach Christian Dvorak?
Yeah, I'd been told he had a lot of interest, and if the price was right, the intention was at that moment to keep going in the rebuild. I think on our point of view is we don't want to dip our toes. We don't want to kind of do a rebuild, but being short of asset at some point. So it was important for us that we had a few things. We did want to acquire a lot of character, a lot of leadership, a lot of guys who can surround our young core of player, and we did want to get a lot of assets who can help us down the road. So Devo was one of the guys who were. We did not have to move Devo. It was not a guy where we're saying, "Oh, we will move him for sure." It was a guy we're saying, "Okay, if the price is right." Bill told me if the price is right, we'll move him. But if not, we were more than comfy to keep him with us.
And this is a player that Marc Bergevin said the Canadiens had interest in before acquiring him. How much interest was there around the league for this player?
They were quite a bit. Before we thought, when I got hired, they told me right from the get-go that they were a team who were really high on Devo, and they were calling, and at the draft was the same, and then the free agency was the same. So it was close a few times, but Devo was not a guy, like I said, we were looking to part away with him. He had term on his contract, and there was not a player where we're saying, okay, we want to move him. It was a player. Listen, if a team really want him and offer us what we're looking for, okay, we'll do it. But it was not somebody who was there and was saying, okay, let's just take the best offer.
You were the former coach of the Ottawa 67s, with obviously one eye on them and still an eye going around the National Hockey League. But you know, when you got to Arizona, how many questions did you ask those around you? I don't know if you had a chance to talk to the former staff at all, if they can give you some intel on some of the players.
Oh yeah, I did a lot of homework. More before that was part of the interview process. Bill asked me to give him an evaluation of the player, and what they could do and what I knew about every player. So I did my homework then. And for sure, when you get hired, you talk to every player, you talk to your own player, you talk to the staff, you talk to people around. So ask a lot of questions.
If you are a fan of the Arizona Coyotes, you can go to sportbuffshop.com for all of your officially licensed sports apparel. And there's sick merch, of course. Use code SICK15 for 15% off on all of their items, for our sick merch, that is, or pick up your Arizona Coyotes jerseys. All right. In the talks that you had with him, how many talks would you say you had with him before he was traded to the Montreal Canadiens? And what were those talks about?
Well, they were really casual. It was I don't think we were in the thick of the situation because we were far away from the camp. The plan was to meet him in the next couple of days. He was here in Arizona, so that was the plan. But I did not have a chance to get there. But Devo is not a kind of a. He's not the most vocal guy. He's not an outgoing person. He's going to keep it for himself and he's reserved and he's a real pro. He does his thing. He's go about his business. He does his things right, but he's not the guy with the most vocal.
If I take a look at his junior career, he put up unbelievable junior numbers with the London Knights, over 120 points. Of course, he played with a tremendous amount of talent. He played with Mitch Marner. Josh Anderson was on that team as well. He wouldn't be the first guy who wouldn't pick up the same points at the National Hockey League level or would have to change his role. This is the best league in the world, but are you confident that he can be a better point producer than he's shown thus far in his career?
But if you look his age, and if I'm not mistaken, he finished third or maybe second in the goal for last year in our team. I think he finished third behind Czech and Phil. So it's not like he's not a productive player. If you look at the minutes he play tough minutes. He play against a top end opponent all the time. So those are not easy minutes for young guys who were 24 at the time and all of it. So I think he's did pretty good for himself so far.
So here in Montreal, of course, we're all talking about whether the Montreal Canadiens are better today than they were Saturday morning, whether they should have matched the offer that Carolina made for Jesperi Kotkaniemi, whether Kotkaniemi will one day play to his potential. So speaking of potential, I believe the Canadiens are better today than they were on Saturday morning. They have a player that, as we know him, I think is a better two-way player right now, a better face-off player right now, a better special teams player right now, a better goal scorer right now, a more consistent performer right now, a more experienced player right now. The list goes on and on. But what I'm not sure about, because I'm pretty good on my opinion there, but what I'm not sure about is, what is this player's potential? So the player's been in the league for about 5 years. He is who he is, anywhere between a 15 to a 20 goal scorer, maybe more. He would have been on pace for 25 last year. Maybe a 40 to 45 point guy, maybe 50 max. We know he plays hard minutes and he's a good two-way player, but how many levels do you think he can still get to?
That's a good question, Tony, and I cannot really answer to that, but I think the player you described to me, his production, the tough minute and everything, it's pretty good, isn't it?
It is, and it also sounds like a player, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, that a coach like you or any coach would like to have because he's reliable.
Yep.
Can you tell me what emotions you're going through, knowing the reality of the team, but knowing that you still do want to win games because that's what's in your blood? How do you feel?
Well, for sure we'll have like Devo, but at the same time, I agree with Bill in the direction of the team and what we have to do. At some point, you cannot have both. We were in a situation when we arrived in Arizona where you don't have a lot of prospect. We did not have picks. Now everybody look at our picks. Oh, you have a lot of picks. Yeah. When I got hired, we had a second-round pick and 2 second-round pick, and after we're in the 4th-round pick and stuff like that. We didn't have picks, so you don't have picks. You don't have a lot of prospect. You lose a lot of player to free agency, or you have some player get older. Okay, how do you do to say, okay, we really want to win a championship. It's not just about, okay, let's make a few moves and try to make the playoff. I would love to win a championship. That's what I want, and that's what the vision of Bill and the organization. We want to work towards winning a championship. So to win a championship, needs we were either going to try to buy it, which I'm not sure it was available to us in the sense of where we were as a team. And like I said, in terms of picks and prospect we had, that was not possible for us to buy to buy a team who will really give us a chance to win the championship. So we had to go through the rebuild, and the status quo was not an option. And unless we'll have believed that give us a chance to win the Stanley Cup. And that was not the evaluation the people in place made. And I agree with that. And now we're making the step we need to do to build a championship team. And if you look in the last, we did their exercise in the last 13 years, 7 teams won the Stanley Cup. Look at those 17, how they build it, where they picks, how they get their asset, and you will have your answer. I'm not a genius. They're there. So
yeah, I'll help answer that question. The Pittsburgh Penguins, the luxury of winning the lottery with Sidney Crosby at number 1, Evgeny Malkin at number 2, once upon a time Marc-Andre Fleury at number 1. I think there was Jordan Staal at number 2, if memory serves me well. That's 1. The Washington Capitals, the luxury of Alexander Ovechkin at number 1. The luxury of Backstrom, of course, being, was he number 4 overall? The Chicago Blackhawks, the luxury of Patrick Kane at number 1. Jonathan Taves at number 3. Seabrook, I think, was in that very big, well, he was probably top 20, I think. But anyway, Los Angeles Kings have won it with Drew Doughty, and they drafted really well with Anze Kopitar. But I understand what you're saying. If you're not that competitive, chances are you end up drafting top 4, top 5. And if you can do so for several years, you could even come across a bad draft year. But eventually, if you do so for several years, you're going to have some really good prospects coming out of it.
That is one, but the other thing is you need a number of assets. You know, we have 3 first-round pick, we have 5 second-round pick in the upcoming draft. I think we have a lot of good veterans here in AZ. The guys who won before. We have good leadership. We for sure we plan to surprise. We're not planning to not surprise. We want to get the best of our team, and we have a team with a lot of veterans, with a lot of pride, and we want to provide excitement for our fans and all of it. That's one. But the one thing we know, if we want to rebuild, we need a number of assets. It's not just about picking one time in every round and thinking in 3 years from now we will have success, because picking first or second or third doesn't guarantee success as well. You can go on the same run and talk about a few teams who had a lot of good picks and did not make it. So we don't want to be that franchise who it's not competitive and not trying to win every night and stuff like that. We want to build a culture here, and we believe with the right culture, adding talent to our group, that's the way we'll build a championship program.
Would the Ottawa Senators be a comparable in what they're going through right now? Traded away maybe some of their better players to stockpile draft picks to give them some options. Also have the ability of drafting 3, 4, and 5, and Stützle and Tkachuk and Sanderson, and list goes on and on. Where are you kind of like similar?
It's tough for me now in my position to start to talk about other organization about.
I understand.
Because people can read off that and say, hey, who is he to judge other? And I agree with that.
I hear you.
2 months ago, I was different. I will have to tell you what I thought. But then now I can be, people can read into it. So I'm in a tough spot. But Tampa Bay did it. Edmund did not. It's not a 7th round pick. It happened in a certain way, and
second overall behind Tavares. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And you have Stamkos, and they
One
had
overall.
who brought Sergachev, and whatever how you want to spin it, and they made other picks. We're not planning to to do anything else than getting good players. You look Tampa. You talk about those guys, yeah, but they got Brendan Point as well in the draft, and they got Kucherov in the second round, and they got Cirelli in the third round, and the list goes on and on.
Palat.
Palat in the seventh, and stuff like that. So we have a really good scout we believe in, and that's why by picks. Our goal is not to pick first, and our goal is to have a lot of picks where we can make the right picks every time. You look at, because if you look at the Barzal, the Shabbat, the Weber, the Patrice Bergeron, we can go on and on. They're not first, second, third overall. They're later. So when you have number of picks, you have a chance to hit the home run and to get those guys who can be difference maker as well.
For your NHL futures, of course, so with the NHL around the corner, the regular season starting in the first week of October, you can always place your bets on MyBookie. Go to mybookie.ag/SickPodcast. Use code SickPicks to double your deposit. Bet, win, get paid. All right, Christian Dvorak talked with members of the Montreal media via a Zoom call a couple of days ago and was asked about his role model, who he models his game after. His answer, Patrice Bergeron. There's a guy who plays the right way, huh?
Oh yeah, that's he's a really good player. He's one of our. He's a Quebec kid, and he's a model for a lot of player in the NHL. The way he carries himself, the way he plays, and all of it. He's a really good role model for sure.
When he said that, Montrealers were pretty excited, and we have a company called Sophistication Event Rentals. They got music, DJs, sound systems, tents, chairs, tables, decor, lighting, photo booth, TV screens, 514-570-5770. You can have your big party after hearing Christian Dvorak say that. Coach, albeit you're in a difficult position, told that you're going to be part of a rebuild, I actually think you're in a great position too. I think you're in a great spot because I would think that your position will come with some patience and with some term. Do you see it that way?
Yeah, I hope so. I surely hope so. We like our team as well. They are. It might not be the most sexy for people, but I really like the character. I meet the player and talk with the guys. They have that passion. We have a lot of player with a chip on their shoulder who wants to prove stuff. So I like that position. I like, Phil Kessel's his last year of his contract. He wants to prove everybody. We have a guy like Andrew Ladd who wants to prove he has a lot more. And we have a lot of guys who are their last year of their deal. And they're good veteran. They're leaders. They're guys who won before. They're guys who wants to prove. So I don't mind our position. I think we are in good position to surprise.
Coach, about or less than a year ago, when you were, of course, coaching Team Canada, the World Juniors, I had a chance to speak with you, and I know how highly you spoke. I remember how highly you spoke and the admiration you had for Caden Gooley. When this trade with the Montreal Canadiens went down for Christian Dvorak, were you able to put forward a couple of names of your wish list? Was Caden Gooley there? How involved were you in the trade? Or is that something that ultimately ends up being GM and GM and you have to just watch your GM do his thing? How does that work?
That's the way to work. But Bill talked to me because he knows I know all the junior player across the world. So he talked to me. He knew so he did the best deal he could, and we're happy about the deal. And I like the way he does his business since we're together, and he never left me outside. So that's the best I can ask.
About a year ago, Nathan McKinnon said, one guy who's very underrated is Philip Danault.
Yeah.
When he plays against him, he says, it's not going to be an easy night because Danault is great in that role.
Yeah.
Do you think in a year from now or in a couple of years from now, or maybe even as early as this season, players around the league will be saying the same thing about Christian Dvorak?
That's a good question. If I knew Devo inside out, I will be able to answer that. One thing I will say is I really like the way he plays. I like what he brings, but to make that kind of a statement will be kind of up in the air. I like what he can bring. The guys here liked him. We wish him all the best, but I don't know what exactly is the ceiling.
So when you go up against Nathan McKinnon now, and Christian Dvorak is no longer a part of your team, who will get that responsibility of trying to shut down some of the best players in the world on your team now?
Yeah, I think that job is up to grab right now. I think that's why we'll have training camp. I think that was clean cut Devo's job. Now we have other guys who will have audition for that job, and we'll see who passed the audition.
Andre, with the former experience or past experiences you've had as assistant coach of the Colorado Avalanche, assistant coach of the Ottawa Senators, your experiences in junior hockey, the World Juniors, and all of that, what is the thing that will help you the most now, as for the first time in your career as a head coach in the National Hockey League? What is it, do you think, will be the thing that helped you the most?
That's a good question. I think my experience as assistant coach, the relationship I can have with the player, and I think that will be really important. I like to build partnership with the player, and I think I had the chance through Hockey Canada, through my experience with the National League when I was in Ottawa, or even more in Colorado. I think those are really good experience, having a chance to exchange a lot with Max Talbot and Daniel Briere and Corey Sarich and Alex Tanguay and Brad Stewart and all those guys who I'm kind of guy who ask a lot of questions. Yesterday I had lunch with Andrew Ladd and asked him a lot about the coach he had in the past, and how Barry Trotz was doing his thing, how Joel Cornville was doing his thing. And I think those I've always been my personality. I like to learn. I'm curious. I like to know how other coaches do their thing, but at the same time, I'm myself and I stay myself. But I think all of this is experience.
This offseason, did you take part in some kind of brainstorm via Zoom with other coaches? Were you looking at something overseas that maybe some team or some coach has implemented to see if you can actually make it as part of your coaching philosophy?
Yeah, I do that every year. I will say right now, because I didn't have a season last year, the booklet is full. Now it's time to get back behind the bench and try the thing you learned, because at some point you don't reinvent yourself completely. You need to stay yourself, and you add to your recipe all the time. So I think in the last 18 months, a lot of conference, a lot of chat, a lot of exchange with other coach. Now it's time to try it and see what spice we need to add.
Well, it's funny because I want to tell you an ending here. As much as you appreciate talking with other coaches and picking other people's brains and seeing what they think, I love on my end doing the same thing with you. Always very available for me. I love talking hockey with you. I love picking your brain. You talked about Patrice Bergeron before being a good chez nous, and what a great role model that is. You two are a good chez nous. I'm so happy you have this opportunity. I knew it was going to come at one point. And Andre Tourigny, I wish you all the best. I have a Cherry River hard seltzer here in hand. It's only 90 calories because I want to try and cut down. Natural on my weight, that is. Natural flavors, no preservatives, available in Quebec grocery stores and the beer stores. This is for you. As they say in Italian, salute. Thank you, Coach.
Thanks.
I want to wish you all the best. Have a great season.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you, and thank you for joining me. Andre Tourigny, have a good one.